You're listening to the Fort Erie Podcast, your local source for upcoming events, hot new listings, and bite-sized interviews with business and community leaders. Here's your host, Brent Jones.
Good morning and welcome to the Fort Erie Podcast. You're tuning into Season 4, Episode 6. It is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, and I'm your host, Brent Jones. My guest for today's brand new episode will be Dave Bergeron, owner and operator of Casa Hugo in Crystal Beach. And I just wanted to mention really quick, my interviews this season, every guest that I have that I've spoken with has actually been a conversation over Zoom. So a couple of you mentioned last week some audio issues while I was speaking with Ashley Gibson, a couple little blips and glitches and things like that. And that's just kind of the way things go with technology sometimes. But overall, I think our conversation came out great. So let me start off this week with yet another reminder. Every new episode of the Fort Erie Podcast this fall, I am giving away a $50 gift certificate to Lucky Strikes in Fort Erie. So if you love bowling, here's how to win. It's very, very easy stuff. You click the link to access the show notes below this episode, scroll down the show notes page to where the Facebook comments section is, type in your comment, and it's as easy as that. I pick my favorite comment, and that individual wins the $50 gift certificate for that week. A few winners so far over the previous episodes, Mike Wickham, Roseanne Reed, Wendy Thompson, and Patty Mountain. All four of you have a gift certificate with your name on it waiting at my office to be picked up. So congratulations for that. Let's see what's making news this week in Fort Erie. Couple of stories here. First and foremost, Fort Erie is getting its sixth cannabis store opening up. This one will be opening Garrison Village, the site of the former LCBO. There's actually, there will be three now on Garrison Road within 300 meters. And hey, that's great for those of you cannabis enthusiasts. I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of options and competition here in town, but I've got to ask, if we have 6 cannabis stores and only 2 LCBOs, I don't know, maybe something just seems a little bit out of balance as far as I can tell. But anyway, full details on this story, you can find the link in the show notes below this episode, as well as everything we talk about today. Check out the links in the show notes below the episode. Next, as you may have already heard, beginning in November, early November, folks in Canada, Fort Erie specifically, will once again be able to drive across the Peace Bridge to Buffalo, New York, to the United States for non-essential reasons. Proof of vaccination is going to be required, of course, but as far as we know right now, no additional testing will be required to cross. There are still some questions a little unclear at this point regarding mixing vaccines, like if you got 1 dose of one vaccine and 1 dose of another, if that's going to be allowed, or whether or not a test will be required to get back into Canada. Say you just make a day trip, do you have to go pay for, some kind of rapid test to return to Canada? Some of those details are supposed to be cleared up shortly. For my hot new listing this week, I wanted to give a shout out to my colleague, my teammate, Rachel White at Remax Niagara. She's got a great listing at 239 Stanton Street in Fort Erie. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2-story family home with a new furnace, newer roof, central air, and so forth. For more information on this property or to book a private viewing, you can contact me directly. And again, as a quick reminder for everyone who buys or sells residential real estate in Niagara region with me this fall, every one of those individuals will go into a draw to win a $3,000 vacation package come January. More details on 239 Stanton Street, as well as the $3,000 vacation giveaway, can be found in the show notes below the episode. Okay, let's see what's on your mind, Fort Erie. I'm going to check in here with the Fort Erie Questions and Answers Facebook group. Heidi asks, where can I get skates sharpened in Fort Erie? There were a few different answers, but the 2 most popular responses I saw were Danny's Locksmith and Sharpening on Niagara Boulevard, as well as Front Row Sports, a newer retail store in Fort Erie located on Garrison Road. Mark asks, are we allowed to burn during the day at this time? I think what Mark is asking is about open burning, either, bonfires or burning leaves. And the correct answer, so far as I can tell, is that residents of Fort Erie are allowed to burn on their property between 4 and 11 p.m. each day. Okay, I think that just about covers what's going on in Fort Erie this week. Now on to my interview with Dave. All right, folks, I am sitting down with Dave Bergeron, owner of Casa Hugo in Crystal Beach. Dave, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time. And let me start by asking you, what, in your opinion, makes Fort Erie and Crystal Beach specifically such a great place to live and work?
Well, I'll start off at the beginning. I've been here for about 7 years. I started flipping cottages before it got popular. And once I did a couple, I realized that this is really where I wanted to retire to. So I kept doing some cottages, and then I could see that the community was starting to build. So I figured I might as well grab some commercial property. I always wanted to have a restaurant. So I said, what the heck? I might as well try it. And I mean, considering I opened during COVID, we are doing good. It'll be great once everything is done and over with, and we can really start enjoying the summers like we should have been.
I've been curious about how you became sort of a connoisseur of Mexican food and tequilas, and did you have previous restaurant experience, or how did that happen?
That's funny. Before becoming a restaurateur, I was a software consultant for 30 years. I had no idea what I was doing. I've got a few pieces of advice on stay away, but nothing comes easy, and it's worth, if you're going to do something, just fight for it, and you most likely will get it done. Love tequila my whole life. I love Mexico. When I think of Mexico, I think of the beach. So it seemed, Crystal Beach seems fitting for a Mexican restaurant. And then we just went with that.
If I remember the timeline correctly, I'm pretty sure Casa Hugo opened in 2019. So just kind of right before the pandemic.
We actually opened January of 2020 was our official, we did soft opening, but we opened up on January 15th, 2020, made it 8 weeks and got shut down for COVID.
I remember in those 8 weeks, though, coming out, I think my wife and I were some of the first people that came out to check out the restaurant when it opened. And were you surprised by just the sheer response you had when you opened?
Yes, I was actually. I mean, considering it's January in Crystal Beach, turns out we were rammed every weekend with the live music. People were having a great time. So I'm going, I think this will work.
I've always wanted to ask you, I've always had this impression that maybe you've had a little bit of a crystal ball, because I remember when you first got shut down, as other restaurants did, you immediately went to work on building a patio. And this was before people had even started talking about patio dining and loosening restrictions for that. Did you just have a sense that was coming, or you just thought, hey, fortuitous timing, if I'm closed, I might as well build a patio?
No, well, I had started the patio at my first attempt that it had no COVID cabanas, right? So the patio was smaller. And then once COVID came, I'm going, okay, so how am I going to get people in here while making them feel safe? I'm going, okay, well, COVID cabanas seems about right. And they're the best things that ever put up there. I mean, people love sitting on them. They feel all safe in their in their little corner. And it worked out well for me. Just, I don't know if it was lucky or...
It seems like
that's all.
Well, it seems like things really fell in place there quite nicely. Let's talk a bit about the menu, obviously, because you offer really what I would describe as very authentic Mexican cuisine. What are some of the most popular menu items, and kind of how did you craft some of these different options?
Well, when we first started, I had developed the menu with my first chef. And then we didn't have many entrees. We were more tacos, burritos, and some appetizers. Our street corn, people love. The tuna poke. We sell a lot of nachos. And then once again, COVID came, and once it was time to reopen, my first chef was actually compromised. So he didn't feel comfortable coming back, which I had no issue with. So then I hired another chef, Jason Young. And then he came in, hit the ground running, started developing some moles and some entrees. So now the menu's starting to ramp up. I haven't got the menu to where I really want it yet. I want to serve beef tongue tacos, but it's probably not the first thing you put on the menu going into a new place. So we kept it fairly simple, and now we're just starting to gradually change the menu, and bring in some more entrees and things like that. But Jay's doing a phenomenal job. Everybody seems to like the food. I mean, you always get complaints about something, but that's the business.
Well, I guess that's true. I mean, we saw a lot of new Crystal Beach businesses pop up during the pandemic. I mean, almost surprising, the number of new businesses, shops, restaurants, things that opened. What do you think is next for Crystal Beach? Where do you see this community being in, say, 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I see it growing more, but not to the point where it's overdeveloped. So right now, the community is doing great. It's not an issue, but what we're going through now and the council is starting to work on are the short-term rentals. I mean, for a town that doesn't have any motels and hotels, short-term rentals are really what's been keeping me going. If there was only for day trippers, there'd be no way I'd be as busy as I am. I mean, short-term rentals are really what's driving the overnighters and the people that are coming in and having dinners and listening to music. So it's coming along, and it's coming along at the pace where I thought it was going to be going 5 years ago. So now it's really starting to ramp up. People are staying here for the winter. They're not going around. They're not leaving as much. So it's turning out to be a really well-rounded community. We just need to be able to fill in the gaps and the little holes of businesses that we don't have down here yet. And that's just a matter of more development along Erie Road, just to intensify the area, the street, right? So Erie and Derby. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 5 year brings.
Yeah, me too. And, one thing, just doubling back on what you said is, you can't stop progress. Right? You can't stop progress coming. And the way I see it, Dave, you and Casa Hugo, I mean, you're a part of the solution right now. And I really appreciate that. So
thank you.
For those of you listening, make sure to check out the links in the show notes below for everything that Casa Hugo is up to. And of course, if you haven't already tried having dinner at Casa Hugo, please do go and check it out. Dave, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Just a couple quick events I want to highlight going on this week before we wrap up today's episode. First, I'd mentioned this in a previous episode of the podcast, but the Dino drive-through experience is now going on at Safari Niagara. This is going on weekdays between 2 and 6 p.m., weekends from 10 until 6 p.m. It's going on from now through to November 7th. So if you're looking for something fun that the whole family can do, you can check out the drive-through dinosaur experience at Safari Niagara. Link in the show notes below the episode. The second event I wanted to mention is be sure this coming Saturday, October 23rd, to catch the grand opening of The Creative Knitter. That's happening between 1 and 6 p.m. So previously, this was an online operation, now with a retail location located in Ridgeway, the corner of Dominion and Gorham. You can check out hand-dyed yarn and handmade project bags and that sort of thing if that's what you're into. And that'll just about do it for this week, Fort Erie. Be sure to catch a brand new episode next Tuesday. My guest is going to be John Mitchetti, Executive Director of Matthew House Refugee Ministry here in Fort Erie. Until then, so long, everybody. Stay safe and have a great week.
You've been listening to the Fort Erie Podcast with your host, Brent Jones, a sales representative with RE/MAX Niagara Realty Limited Brokerage. Follow @BuyWithBrent on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates. Subscribe to the Fort Erie Podcast on popular platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and catch a new bite-sized episode every week. Until next time.